messages. What is this?
Where's Tori?
She's gonna come roll. Where's my paper?
We're live. Hi, everybody.
Hola, vatos. It doesn't mean anything that I asked my
Ow.
friends.
Let's see. Do
I
I
think
need
it's
to
paper pen.
scoot closer to me? There you go. Where's Tori?
My knee's sticking out.
Why did I go to get so close this time?
What is happening?
There she is. They're watching us.
Oh, this is over here.
We are getting it together. They're out there.
We are together.
They're live. This is Dr. Knipp. She has entered the room.
Hello. She keeps our
Also
together. Our heads.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Thanks for
Hello.
joining us. We are getting better at being on time. It's like wrangling cats, so you can keep that in your prayers.
I was agreeing.
Yeah. Okay, wrangling squirrels then. Thanks for being back with us. Thank you all for showing up week to week. Those of you who tune in every week, we still would really love your feedback. Join in with us on this because this is for you. I mean, it's for us, but it's for you as well. So we would love to have your participation, your input, your feedback. Today we're going to talk about, and we say it a lot here because we have to remember feelings aren't facts. And I'm convinced, until research proves otherwise, that girls are worse with feelings being facts and having to remind ourselves that they're not. I just think men do a better job at, they do better with, and I'm not saying it's a positive thing, I'm just saying they do better with disconnecting feelings than we do. I think
Waffle
that,
brain.
yeah, spaghetti waffle kind of thing. But anyway, so today what we're talking about is Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? And so as we talk more about this and share, the bottom line is it's trying to help us understand that your heart can mislead you. It can misguide your thoughts. Feelings, while they are legitimate, they're valid. Our feelings, how we feel, is valid. They're not necessarily facts. And sometimes how we feel misguides our thoughts and our actions. Something that happens, maybe something small, it may be something significant, it might be a text message, it may be someone was supposed to meet you and they don't show up, a conversation goes sideways, and all of a sudden within seconds, before you've had time to think what's already there, you're feeling, how you feel about the moment, the situation. And so, I know we've had this conversation this week. Have you sent a text message you wish you could unsend? Have you said something you wish you could take back? Have you responded in a way you later wish you hadn't done? So that's how, when we respond to feelings, these are feelings that say this means something, act on it right now. And that's something we all have to work on, is not reacting, but contemplating and rationalizing how we feel about the thing. And so you do. So you send that message, you regret, you leave the room, you reach for the thing you've been trying not to reach for, you make a decision in the heat of the feeling, and 2 hours later you regret it. Hence, you're triggered to further behave a way that we fight against and we try to avoid. So what we want to explore today is the idea that your feelings, as real and as valid as they are not always reliable narrators for the moment. And more than that, they're not commands. You're allowed to feel something fully without being obligated to act on it immediately. So we're going to dwell there today. Today we're going to talk about emotional misinformation. What is it and why does it happen? So I think, who's first?
I am.
Emotional misinformation.
Okay, so feelings are not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's also not anything to just push down, dismiss, spiritually overcome. They're real, and it's okay to feel them. The brain is wired to feel, and it gets that wiring from everything that you've ever experienced. Like when you experience something, your brain is programmed to protect you. So it throws up these feelings through all that. And where maybe now, at that time, that situation was real. Like it was, it was factual, and that was the wiring in your brain. Well, now you might be in a totally different situation, a safer situation, a situation where those feelings are not valid, but the brain don't understand the difference in the external situation. So it's developed very fast with very strong emotional responses to things that once signaled danger, like raised voices or certain people, maybe just different things. And once those are removed, the brain isn't automatically rewired. So that wiring was your way of surviving. And maybe at one time that's what worked. It is what protected you. It was, the flare-ups or whatever. But maybe now that's not accurate. And you have to just be kind of discern whether, it's okay that I'm feeling this way, but is this valid? Like, is this a feeling that, is this still accurate? Maybe it was accurate here, but it's not accurate over here. So that emotional misinformation is not manipulation, it's not weakness, it's just a system of doing what it was trained to do. And a situation that has changed, but the system just hasn't fully caught up yet. So here are some examples of what emotional misinformation can look like in real life. So somebody's responded, you hasn't responded to your text or your call. Well,
They hate me.
they hate
Why
you. They're
ignored
angry
me?
with you.
Yeah.
They're done with you.
Yeah.
You've done something wrong, and now they're pulling away. And that feeling might cause a sense of urgency, like I have to deal with this. So the next thing you know, you've sent 5 text messages back that's done nothing but escalate the situation. It's escalated the whole situation when it wasn't what it appeared to be in the first place. Another example, maybe you make a mistake at work. Well, the feeling immediately rides that this is who you are, you're a failure, there's no bouncing back from it, everybody knows you've done this wrong. It speaks in the declarative. It doesn't say maybe or possibly, it says this is it, this is what's going on, this is true, when that's not the reality. Sometimes you might wake up in a bad mood and you don't even know why. You just wake up and that's normal sometimes. But when you wake up in that mood, you might go into immediate, what's causing this? I've got to figure it out. I've got to find out what's going on. And it causes anxiety and it causes a sense of urgency. When you just woke up, maybe your hormones are a little off balance and it throws everything off.
Absolutely.
Each of these cases, the feelings are real, the emotion is genuine, but the information that it's delivering, the story it's telling about what the feeling means, what caused it, or so forth, it's not necessarily accurate. And you have to be able to discern that so that you're not just being controlled by how you feel all the time. Jeremiah's observation about the heart is not a theological insult. It's an honest acknowledgement that in the inner life, if it's left unexamined, it will sometimes tell us things that are not true. And that wisdom, the kind of recovery and faith are both trying to build. It involves learning to receive a feeling about that without automatically accepting the interpretation. I hope all that makes sense. But just because, your feelings can be very deceitful. Like the heart, it says, not to, that your heart can deceive you. And if anybody tells you, follow your heart, that doesn't line up with the Word of God. the Word of God does not say follow your heart or go with your feelings. It says exactly the opposite of that.
Yep.
It does. And for me, what this makes me think of, it doesn't have to be related to addiction, but we want to tie that into addiction and recovery. It's like you spend this period of time in addiction, and you have learned behavior, you have learned responses, and so just because your condition or your circumstances change, the learned behavior is still there, so you have to unlearn that.
Yeah.
So you can put that in, if you've gone through a divorce, if you were in a bad marriage and now you're in a new marriage, a new relationship, a lot of people are, whatever caused that first relationship to be bad, you can be in a new and better relationship and good, healthy relationship, but the things from the previous relationship prompt feelings that sometimes our new person or your new relationship suffer the consequences of the behavior from the previous. And then the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can take a caged animal who has been in a cage the majority of its life, and then you give them freedom. They don't know how to live in that freedom. They've only ever existed as a caged animal, and so they're going to behave like they're still caged because it's a new and foreign thought process. And it's not real. Like we have a dog that was caged most of its life. We can open the gate to the entire backyard and she won't leave. She won't go into open spaces because she's only familiar with confined spaces. So it's unlearning and then relearning. So it's not just a one-step process. It's an unlearn and relearn kind of thing.
I like that.
So, Tori, can you talk to us about ways to tell those feelings, emotions apart?
Yeah. So a feeling is an internal experience. It is real. It is happening inside you. It does not require external evidence to be valid. As an experience. You can feel rejected without having been rejected. You can feel hopeless without your situation actually being hopeless. And you can feel certain about something that is factually uncertain. The feeling is real. What the feeling describes may or may not be. And so the difference here is that a fact is something verifiable. It is external and it exists independently of how you feel about it. It can, in principle, be checked. And so a lot of times we feel these things on the inside, it could be, just like I was talking about rejection. Well, Jessica didn't invite me to go get cupcakes yesterday, so she must be rejecting me because I'm her best friend. Why would she not? But she probably knew that I was busy building a stupid chicken run and thought, you know what, I'm not going to bother her. But the first feeling was rejection rather than inclusion, or that my best friend's thinking about me and caring about me and just didn't want to bother me, which actually means love and kindness, and thoughtfulness. It could easily go south if I partnered with that feeling of rejection, So instead of saying something to yourself like, I'm having a feeling that nobody cares about me, you could say, where is it? It says, instead of nobody cares about me, I'm having a feeling that nobody cares about me. So claiming it as a feeling rather than as a fact, I could say, oh, I feel like Jessica rejected me, instead of she did reject me.
It's true.
Because I know she never would.
I'm seriously second guessing if I went and got cupcakes.
You did not.
Cupcakes.
No, you
These
didn't.
are feelings.
See, real time
Right
here.
here,
See what's
real
happening
time, yeah.
right now.
No, she did not go and get cupcakes, and she did not invite me. I guess it was just on my because we did have bundt cake. And so instead of saying I'm going to fail, Christy did not. Instead of saying I'm going to fail at this, we could say I'm having the feeling that I'm going to fail at this. instead of saying this is never going to get better, you could say that I'm having the feeling that this is never going to get better. So the shift is small, and it makes all of the difference. Once you've named it that way, you can ask the follow-up question, what is the evidence? And so if there is no evidence, if I didn't find out that Jessica told Christy that she just didn't want to invite me because she didn't like me anymore, then there's no evidence. No evidence, you know. And so, you know, you can ask yourself also, has Jessica showed up for me? Has she always been there for me? You know, in the times of need, where's she at? And so the answer is always yes, yes, yes. She's always been there. And so I can fact check that with the feeling and come to the conclusion of whether it's a feeling or if it's the truth. So the feeling does not have to agree with the evidence. Feelings rarely respond immediately to logic, but the act of checking the evidence interrupts the loop between feeling and action. It inserts a beat of discernment into what would otherwise be a reflex. And so something else that our Dr. Knipp has enlightened me of is those neurotransmitters. They have all of these paths, and so like Joanne was talking about, our bodies are used to those. Those are our first go-to until we rewire those pathways and start to think different thoughts. And so I don't remember the whole thing that she told me, but what I did get out of it was to try to have a rational thought, because there's something that goes on in your brain, and to be able to form a rational thought, you have to kind of ground yourself and just pause. If you can find the pause, then you can try to come to the rational thought. If you can question the feeling, then you can come to the reality. And so the more that you do that, the more that you're actually able to create more rational thoughts. The more that you don't jump to the conclusions, the more that you rewire your brain. And so, you know, that is where freedom lives. It's small, it's often uncomfortable, and sometimes it looks weird. Sometimes it looks like almost being embarrassed because you were just into it with somebody, and then you're like, you know what, I need to take just a second, because the feelings that I'm having, you might be right, they might not be lining up with what is really going on right now. And so it's being humble, it's letting your pride go, it's stopping, it's taking a time out, it's redoing everything that we've always done. And so, you know, if you start there, that's where you stop being run over by your feelings, and you start making choices that reflect who you are actually trying to become, and you don't have to stay who you once were.
I like that. It makes me think one of the things that stands out to me, there are a couple things, but it's a small shift.
Yeah.
It is a small shift, but it's a challenging shift.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to speak about it in case Jessica's going to, but you know, even in our journey, we've had those moments that in relationships that are unfamiliar, when you've had a life of unstable and hurtful, harmful relationships, and then you have a healthy love relationship, a safe relationship. Sometimes even in that safe relationship, responses because of past relationships overlap a little bit. And so I know that Jessica and myself, and even Victoria and myself, have had some conversations, moment of recall. And so what I'm hung on is that the shift is small. The shift is the pause. And so what that tells me is there's this space between feeling and action.
Yeah.
So Jessica, can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's funny to speak to what you were just saying about, you know, some conversations that we've had in the beginning when it was very unfamiliar for me to have a healthy relationship with a female in leadership. And so when I first started kind of partnering, I would have to come see Christy every Thursday because I did not work at Herman Fellowship. So every Thursday I would come and meet with her, and sometimes in the middle of the conversation she would say, hold on, what did you just hear me say? You know, so that just to make sure that what came out of her mouth was what actually went into my ears. And I would say 8 out of 10 times it was not. Because I would just, it's like Tori was talking about, you know, having the feeling of, you know, I'm already writing my own narrative. I heard the first 3 words out of your mouth and I've already assumed what the rest of the sentence is. Yeah. And that is an impulse. So an impulse is, it's an urge that you get from a strong feeling. So it's kind of the space between a feeling and an action. And it is where a feeling can become behavior. It's a very important injunction in recovery. It's been very important in my recovery. Impulse control has been and is a very real thing for me. One thing that I had to learn is that it is not, impulsive behavior is not a character flaw. It is a learned behavior, and it kind of goes back to what Joanne was talking about, survival. I feel a threat, I respond. I feel a threat, I react. I feel threatened, I feel rejected, I feel like I'm in danger, I feel vulnerable. Your impulse is to protect yourself. Protect yourself, retreat, run away, move forward, you know, whatever the case may be. And it's that, what Tori was talking about, yeah, the neurotransmitters, what Tammy teaches us is the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So, like the way my brain is wired, if the outside thing makes me feel threatened, it goes straight to action. Whereas a normal brain would be able to kind of go this way and say, what's actually happening here? And so learning to stop the impulse, when the feeling causes the impulse, to be able to stop and practice the pause. Like, okay, I don't have to say anything right now. I don't have to do anything right now. It's okay to process. And if you've ever been in a very long conversation with me about anything particularly emotional, sometimes I have really long spaces between what I'm thinking and what I'm about to say, because I have to listen to it all the way through in my head, because I try to be very careful now about what comes out of my mouth, between the thought in my head and how it comes out and how the person across to me is going to feel about what I'm saying. So I could say something to Tori that would not affect her, but if I said the same thing to Dr. K, it would hurt her feelings. Or if I said it to Joanne, she would probably think, well, that's silly, or not even, it's just very different, learning that impulse is not always, my first response, my first reaction is probably not always the best one. It's probably not always the right one. But you can only unlearn it if you can stop it while it's a thought. Because if you can't stop the thought, if you go ahead and you put the thought into action, it's done. You cannot unring a bell. That used to be one of my favorite things to say. I was not always a big fan of accepting apologies. So it's like you can't unring a bell. You can't unbreak a plate. You can't unsay words. You can't unhurt feelings. And if I'm honest, in reality, you probably only really get one good apology to anybody, ever. Because once you apologize, if you repeat that behavior, I know for me, in the life that I've lived, in my mind, you've apologized, but then you've done this thing again, so you must not have meant it. So by proxy, your first apology didn't mean anything. So any apologies you're going to give me after are also. But again, that's impulse, that's assumption, that is learned behavior that 10 years into my recovery, I'm still unlearning. So I think a huge thing practicing the pause and learning to recognize that signals, feelings, impulses in your brain are not always true. I really loved, there's a description here of what impulse, like what this whole process feels like. And it says, there's a sensation of urgency. It's not a calm desire, but it's a pressing, almost physical need to do something right now. There's often a narrowing of attention, hyperfocus. The feeling takes up everything in your brain. If you're watching a TV, the feeling would be the whole screen. Everything else, consequences, values, the version of myself I'm trying to be, all of that gets pushed to the side. And there is frequently a story that justifies the action before it happens. I deserve this. I've been good for so long. It's been so long since I've acted this way. Nobody's going to know if I do it this one time. It's not going to matter. And so all of those impulses, you know, when your brain is firing, I know for me, it's almost a, you know, it's fight or flight. It's survival. And so as hard as, and you have to know, for me, I have to know who I was. I have to know who God is in order for me to know who I want to be, so that I can actively keep trying to become that person and unbecome the person that I was.
And that's not an overnight
No.
thing. It's a process. And, you know, that's, for me, I think that proves even more how important community is. The people
Yep.
that you surround yourself with, and, you know, if you can surround yourself with people that genuinely care about you, and because what you're going to need, and I still go back to even more conversations, it's like part of life is hard conversations. Part of life is hard situations, uncomfortable circumstances, and having that person or those people around you that are your safe place,
Yep.
but that you trust enough to speak hard truths. And I know Jess and I had a conversation, and I think even Victoria and I have, and we have a lot of hard conversations, that to speak truth into you. And it's like there's been times of retaliation that we've had to say, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm the person that loves you. I'm saying what I'm saying because I love you and because you've given me permission to be honest with you. And so that requires that pause. You're like, okay, you're right, to realize that the words that are coming or the situation that's happening is not created out of where we used to live and how we used to dwell. So relearning and then building that community of people you trust. And we exercise that every day. We deal with a lot of hard stuff, and we have to have a lot of hard conversations. But we also work very hard at nurturing that love for one another, so that we are reminded that we can trust each other in the midst of hard things and hard conversations. So, you know, for those that are in recovery, I think it's important, let's re-emphasize how important healthy community is. And the ones of you who are out there that are familiar with recovery and that are even helping us build that recovery community, you serve as those people helping the ones that are new in their recovery journey trust again, learn what love feels like again, and put this theory to test. So the next time the strong feelings arrive with instructions, and one will, it'll happen, they happen every day, I want you to try just one thing. Before you act, say, okay, I'm having that feeling, and I'm choosing to pause. That pause is hard. It doesn't it's not necessarily easier the longer you're in recovery. It's still a very intentional effort, but that's the whole practice in its smallest form. Name the feeling without letting it wear clothes of facts. You don't have to dress them. You don't have to give them permanent place, and pause before it becomes an action. You'll not do it perfectly. There'll be moments when the impulse fires faster than the pause. And that's not a failure. That's part of being human. Again, that's why it's important that your community that you surround yourself with is healthy and that is trustworthy. Jeremiah's honesty about the heart is not a verdict, it's an invitation to stop trusting your heart blindly and start examining it carefully. The heart is deceitful above all things. And let that rest for a minute. The heart is deceitful. Who can understand it? Our Creator, God can. And with practice, slowly and imperfectly, you can trust the Lord in those moments. And I think that's where we go back to the scripture of Jeremiah 17:9. Who has it? I have it somewhere. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Only God can understand it. He created it. Anybody else got anything? That's good stuff.
It is good
That's
stuff.
real
It's
stuff.
hard stuff, but it's good stuff.
And just learning, you know, for the love of Pete, get a counselor. Like,
Everybody needs
Yes,
counseling.
it has been invaluable. And even, you know, when I started counseling, it's only been like 6 months. So I'm almost 10 years into my recovery and just started counseling. And it's like, oh, okay. So I'm learning names for these things like, you know, flooding, like getting flooded with emotion where, you know, that's where the impulse comes in because all these feelings are happening at the same time. And it's like, God, you know, you want to do something. But now it's like, okay, I know what that is. You know, it's an outside stimulus. It's hitting my brain and it's causing me, like my whole self is flooded with thoughts and feelings that are just everywhere at the same time. And my face turns red and you know, sometimes I cry, but it's like, there's a lot going on. But just to know that like, that is a physiological reaction to an outside stimulus. And this is what it's called. And this is why it happens. And this is what you can do to kind of, not even make it go away, but feel it, sit with it, you know, get it to go, figure out what it is, but you don't have to act on it. You don't have to act out on it, you know, and it's okay to say, I'm going to go for a minute. Just give me a minute and I'll be back, you know, but you can't, you know, as much as we're one-man armies out there, like that's just not how recovery works. Just not. And the more you know, you have to learn, like, why do we tick? Why do we act this way? And when you start learning that stuff, then, you know, it's your toolbox. We talk about this toolbox all the time. You know, there's only so many tools that you're going to get from other places before you have to start getting new tools, sharper tools, tools more appropriate for the job that you're doing now, because the work you're doing 5, 10, 20, 30 years in your recovery is not the same work that you're doing 30 days in your recovery. So you have to, your toolbox has to evolve.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you made me think, I was like, when I bring people in counseling sessions, and y'all will probably remember, I encourage, it's like, first thing we're going to do is let's talk about your feelings. Because if you don't undress them, then you've already given them an outfit. And so they exist. They sit beside you on the couch. And so I bring people in, I'm like, let's first talk about how you're feeling. What are you feeling right now? Because if you can speak to them, then you can expose them and put them in the proper place. But if you don't expose them, if you don't feel those, and we do that a lot, you know, addiction, we resorted to addiction to stop feeling, right? And so that hasn't changed. We still try to push those feelings down, and that's dangerous. And so your feeling is there. Again, they're valid. We need to feel those, but then we need to put them in their proper place. We need to undress them so that they don't carry more weight than they deserve to carry. So I think that's important. Thanks.
What'd you say?
Oh, me too. So thanks again for joining us. Listen, if you've got something you're carrying and you need healthy community, call us, text us, put a message in there. If you need prayer, put a heart in the comments. We would love to pray for you. But is that a heart?
I don't know.
We're trying.
We suck at that. There's another one.
If it was an anatomically correct heart, you would probably just like put your
There's
fist
a
up. Drop a heart in the comments.
heart. But no, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday. See you then.
Peace out.
Bye.